says may elicit some responses or thoughts. So go ahead, Mary Ellen, and raise your hand, and Kathy can take you if you want to speak after that.
Thank you. First, I wanted to reiterate Jeff and Eddie's comments about admiring what you all have been doing the last several weeks. I've been down to Keener Plaza several times. I've spent several hours there. So I'm definitely sympathetic to your cause and your rights. And I've been grappling with this for about 6 weeks or so, 5 weeks, I guess, trying to figure out a way to meet the city's obligations under city ordinance and park regulations, and also help keep your movement going, and where we can all coexist peacefully. And I've talked with a lot of people that have been at Keener Plaza trying to come up with ideas for a 24/7 operation. And I mean, I think this is something that we all need to think about and discuss, but I thought maybe a speaker's corner. My impression of the movement is your need to occupy a space, how large the space is or how large your tents or whatever are. I think the 24/7 thing is what seems to be most important, and I threw out an idea that maybe we have a speaker's corner zone. I don't know how many of you have had the opportunity to visit London, but they have a really cool, it's regulated, it's not 24/7 there, but there's a speaker's corner there where people literally get on their soapbox and speak their mind. And I thought maybe that would be something really great for your movement, and also something really cool for the city, and something that we can all be proud of together. So it's a compromise idea that I throw out to the group.
I saw Trey was next.
Yeah, it's not exactly related to what you were saying, but I would like to say thank you actually for meeting with us. This comes from me, not anything else. This is difficult for everyone, and the whole thing is not clear. The whole thing is not clear all the time, and it is difficult. And I would like to see this person set precedents for any other Occupy going on. Maybe, because you guys are a part of this, whether you know it or not. The whole point is there's lots of different political agendas. There's lots of different, but this is not necessarily politics. We've got conservatives, we've got liberals. Everyone is.
So do we, by the way.
Yes. My point is that you guys are just as much a part of this, and I think that's something that people do not express enough. The point is that we as people just want to learn how to take control of our government again. So maybe what I would love to see is that this turns into the first Occupy, that we can all work together and maybe come up with a solution that just hasn't been done before, because this is a global thing. And that's the first time I've seen it in my lifetime, and I haven't read a whole lot about it in my history books. But obviously the media helps. But what I'm saying is this is frustrating for everyone, and we would like to work, I think, together. So basically everyone, have some patience with everyone else.
Good thought.
Go ahead.
We need a place where we can have an encampment 24 hours. We have people who have no place else to go. What can you offer us in that way that is visible? We don't want to be shuffled off into some place where nobody knows we exist. We already have homeless villages that are shuffled off where nobody knows they exist. We want to be visible. We'd be very happy to be on the riverfront under the arch. But we want to be visible, and we want to be able to get our point across to large numbers of people.
I see Chuck. Bill, I'm not sure if you might want to respond at some point too. But I'll do
Let's
Chuck.
keep moving.
Yeah.
I can go. Okay, so mine is a direct response to what you were saying about the park curfew violations and wanting people to clear out between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. Other cities have seen that these occupiers were not going to go away, and they've suspended the park curfew ordinances. And also on that, most of the symbolism behind the Occupy movement is the fact that people are erecting tents and camps in the spirit that they're not going to go away, and that this is a continual occupation until they start to get their voices heard.
All right, I saw Ryan and then William.
Does the city want to respond first?
Yeah, I think we need to listen, but we would be happy to come back, you know, and I think it's better that we just reflect on what people have to say today, and in the interest of being understanding and patient with one another, I just want to, and I appreciate your sincerity, and I understand the point of view. I do.
My name is Ryan Burris. I'm not sure everybody's getting exactly all the points of what all the Occupy movements are about. The way I see this is the Occupy movements are a symptom of a larger sickness. The sickness that we see is too much corporate power over our democratic processes, as opposed to the voters, the citizens, regular people, property owners, what have you. I'm a property owner, so I have a lot of taxes to pay, especially this year. And I'm also curious, would the city, in good spirit or good faith, be willing to make certain assurances or deals or what have you, that you would divest your city business from Bank of America and some of the larger banks that you do business with, and transfer that business over to, say, the local commercial banks like Southern Commercial, Citizens, Pulaski, what have you. First Commerce, I believe, is a mid-sized thing. These are concrete things that I think we would like to see. And even though that doesn't necessarily pertain to our establishment of a presence down there at Kingdom Plaza, I think it would go a long way to help facilitate whatever type of deal we could make.
I saw William and then forgetting.
I'm hoping for a response to this now. She mentioned that we have a homeless contingency. I'd like to expand on that in that there's a lot of homeless downtown, and along with that, there's a lot of violence and drugs rampant downtown, especially in downtown parks. And that since we've been there, we've managed to clear out that space of violence and drugs, and that it is now a peaceful space, and it is a better space because of the 24-hour occupation happening. You look at the other parks downtown, and they're still rampant with drugs, and they're still rampant with violence. You don't see that at Keenan. I'm hoping to get a response now as to how you feel taking down camp would affect that, and if you consider camp being there a benefit.
I have to think about that. I just would give you a better answer, and I will be back, and I hope that you're back the next time, and I will think about that. I mean, we're working on larger homelessness issues too, and I just want to be thoughtful and deliberate about it, but I appreciate your point, and I will respond to it, and we'll come back with that.
Lou, Jonathan, Sasha. No, you're fourth.
I was just gonna ask that, out of respect for everybody here as citizens witnessing this, that all the questions be answered at least somewhat. That's why we're here, for the information of this, not to discuss any compromises yet. And also, I'd like to know when you would be enforcing these rules that you're speaking of, the ordinances, and how you would go about doing them.
Well, I feel, people's sense of urgency in the room, that they want to hear more of a response, but I feel as though, this is the first sort of orderly dissertation of ideas from the direct participants that we're hearing, and I just think it's better for us to think about some of these issues. In terms of when will the ordinances be enforced? I'm sorry, did you? Yeah. I think that we ought to.
I'm sensing a vibes check. I'm making a facilitated discussion that people seem to want answers to their questions. So, all right, that seems like the vibes check. So
we'll go back to your question, and the answer is, I don't know whether it's safer or not safer. I suspect that in some ways it is safer, in some ways it is unsafer. It's a little bit sort of begs the question. And I think that you deserve to hear straight from us, you know, why we're here, and that is, as far as we're concerned, primarily because of how sacred we believe the First Amendment is, we have chosen not to enforce the ordinances. We are now getting complaints, and it's not just from the Downtown Partnership. And I get you're looking for a boogeyman. Unfortunately for you, it's not that narrow. We've received about 40 complaints in our office alone, and that's just the start. Now, just so you know, we've also probably received about 40 people calling in to say, leave me alone. The city, the region, the state, and the country is split. Okay? The fact of the matter is, people are like, why do they get to break the law and we don't? Okay, so what we do in the city is we try as much as we can to not be officious about the rules and regulations, and we like people to work out their disputes together or coexist together. And so we hoped everybody would coexist. They're not. Whether the people who have complaints are legitimate or illegitimate, or whether you're legitimate or illegitimate, sort of doesn't matter, because they're our constituents and you're our constituents. And so they've said, hey, why do they get to be in the park when, you know, we don't get to do that? Now, as far as the homeless issues, and like Bill, one of the reasons we brought Bill here is that that is a big issue. And, you know, what I like to tell people is one of the reasons, I tell them it because it's true, one of the reasons is that there's so many homeless people in downtown St. Louis is because that's where all the services are. And if all the services were in Chesterfield, they'd all be in Chesterfield. And so, and I get that folks who don't follow this issue, and some of you probably met a homeless person for the first time ever in your lives in this encampment, and it's probably something you'll never forget. It's something that you'll probably find to be a really good thing. But we've been at this for a very long time. And so what I'd like to do is have Bill, and I don't want to spend all of our time on this, but one of the reasons I brought Bill is so that you could hear what we are doing and have been doing to address the issue. Then I'll come to your question when he's done.
All right, we've got a list, so don't worry. We're taking notes.
Yeah, thanks. I have been down to Keeter Plaza, and some of you probably have seen me down there, and I've particularly tried to engage some of the homeless people that are there. I have a habit of riding a bike, and I get downtown, and I talk to homeless people on a pretty regular basis. And I did engage several people there, and what I attempted to do was try to connect them to programs and services that we have here in the city. We are undertaking an effort right now, you probably know, relocating people from the encampments on the riverfront. And we're actively engaged in that. We've been at that for quite a while now. And that does present its problems, I can tell you, trying to identify housing for everybody, trying to provide services. But we do have those things available for people if we can, access the individuals. And certainly, we would be willing to be down there on a more regular basis to engage those individuals so we can have those discussions, see what their needs are, do the assessment, and see what we can do to try to find placements for housing and other services depending on what's needed. So our efforts are pretty extensive. We think we have a manageable problem here in the city when you compare St. Louis to other communities around the country. But one homeless person is one too many, I can tell you from our viewpoint. And we're certainly very, very willing to engage in any way we possibly can. We've attempted to do that already. So just know that our department and our staff and our providers that we have here, particularly in the downtown area, as Jeff says, are extensive. They have good resources available, and we're going to do everything we can.
By the way, they're not in hiding. We're not hiding our homeless services. They're everywhere. The reason you don't notice them is because you have in your brain what a homeless service looks like. And the services we're providing, you all heard of Washington Avenue. A lot of people think, oh, Washington Avenue, you have to do this and you have to do that. But we have a veterans program right on the corner of Washington and Tucker. How many veterans are in there, Bill? 48. 48 veterans are living in there. You wouldn't know it because you're probably thinking, oh, it's got to look like Larry Rice's place. No, we have programs all over downtown. And our goal, and it's more aspirational, is to end what's known as chronic homelessness. Chronic homelessness, which is different than episodic homelessness, is people who are always homeless. And rather than helping facilitate them on the streets, what we're trying to do is help facilitate them in their own place, an apartment, with services, with a job, with whatever it takes, with drug or alcohol. And so it doesn't look like maybe what you think it looks like. We're not hiding them away anyway. They are right in the middle of everything in downtown St. Louis.
So I think the next question that was asked was around divesting from the big banks who crashed the economy and are clearly the 1%.
Right, and you're not going to like my answer to this, but I'm going to be straightforward with you, and that is In the city of St. Louis, we represent everybody. We represent you, we represent, there really aren't many one percenters, they mostly live out in the suburbs, but we do also represent the corporations like Bank of America and the others. And we need everybody in the city. And I know you don't like that, and I get that, and you're not gonna like that, but I'd rather tell you the truth than give you some mealy-mouthed answer. And the fact of the matter is, and we were looking at this the other day, if it wasn't for the downtown business district, we'd have no money for the kinds of services that we need for all of our residents, including our residents that live in what we could believe to be unacceptable poverty. And so our corporations provide jobs, they pay taxes. You've got an argument about whether they pay enough in federal taxes. That's a legitimate argument, but I can tell you in the city, we'd be in a real corner and a real spot without the corporations and the jobs that they provide and the tax revenues that they provide. And our quality of life for all of our citizens, from the poorest people to the wealthiest people, would be substantially different if they didn't exist. Now, that doesn't mean you can't petition your government. Doesn't mean you can't go down to the Board of Aldermen and get somebody to introduce a bill and push the legislation. We're just going to disagree on that, but that's why you're here. Is, you know what? And this is sort of the thing about America is, and I tell people that I disagree on the far right, people I disagree with in the middle, and on the left. In this city, we have 320,000 people. We have 320,000 different opinions. And what I say is, it's either my opinion and the other 319,999, you go to heck, you know, we're going to have chaos. And so we all got to work these issues out together. And that is, you know, it's interesting that you chose to come in the city of St. Louis, and I believe you got a different reception in the city of St. Louis than you would in Baldwin, Chesterfield, or St. Charles. And yet, some of you think we're bad guys. Well, maybe you ought to test it out and see what kind of reaction you would get in Baldwin, Chesterfield, or St. Charles. Because we welcome everybody in the city. We welcome you, we welcome middle-class people, we welcome poor people, homeless people, wealthy people, corporate citizens. We welcome everybody because it takes all of us in our city, which is different than other places. In our city, we need everybody. So I know you don't like the answer, but I'm not going to dance around stuff and have you all leave later and say, well, come on. You know.
I would add just one more thing to that and say that maybe we can get someone from Darlene Green, the city controller's office, to the next meeting. She's really the big decision maker.
Well, we have to figure out who that is. I'm not sure it's her. Did you have a question, right?
Yeah, with this, yeah, so I've got the list of questions. So the other one is, when is the curfew going to be enforced?
Sooner rather than later, but we're trying to give this process a chance to work, but sooner rather than later.
I have a direct response to that. Now, will you give time to respond with another meeting, or are you just going to directly enforce it without?
It just sort of depends on where we end up. I mean, if the purpose is to stall, it'll be sooner. If we're making some progress and we got some ideas, but we need some time for them to percolate, then we're going to give them a chance to percolate.
Okay, but I'm saying, are you going to address everybody before you do it, or are you just going to do it?
Ask that a little differently because I'm not sure what you mean.
Are you going to?
Oh, I see what you're saying. I believe what we'll end up doing is giving you 24 hours, in some manner, 24 hours advance notice, which we have not done yet.
All right, so I believe we've done with most of the questions. The folks who are next. Jonathan was next.
I think you want to enforce sooner than later the law that to me seem unconstitutional, that in the First Amendment it says that you cannot make a law that abridges or infringes upon these particular rights. Now, you sit there and you say you want to enforce these unconstitutional laws, and I know you can say, oh, those laws have been on the books for since 1983, but I mean, it's somewhere close to that. And to me, that just really edifies what I'm meaning is that these generations prior to our generation have allowed that bar to slip so far. And we are the generation now taking up this issue. And I don't know if you understand that, but we plan to make our future better. I know you might think, oh, the world is just fine and dandy the way it is. And we looking at it. We have conversations about it. We discuss it, we get in depth, and we get the numbers, we get everything going. You should come to one of our discussions as we have them in Keener Plaza. That'd be a great thing.
Can I make a suggestion? Just like, how would you feel if I told you how you think?
You actually got it.
Right. What you said is you're saying that I think that the world is perfectly fine the way it is. You don't know how I think, and I'm not judging you the same way. all I've told you all is what I think. I haven't told you what you think. I haven't told him what he thinks. So, you know, you can't assume anything on the law. We disagree on the law, but you know what? We haven't rushed to judgment. You know, if a court tells us we're wrong in the law, we're gonna follow the law. That's all we're trying to do.
Let it be 5 years in the making, right? I'm so sorry, you cut me off, I wasn't finished.
Yeah, go ahead.
And also, you know, these programs, these homeless programs, apparently they do not work. I'm a witness of them. Not that I've been in one, but that I'm helping people who potentially have gone through them. And those programs are totally different from what we are applying, and yet what we are applying is really, really working. I have seen people go to rehab and come back better people and consistently remain better people because of what we have accomplished here in Keener Plaza. Now, you may say whatever you may say about that issue, that it's a safety issue, but I don't agree. We have made a lot of things happen, but I'm sorry, you're right. I just think that our government can take a page from our book and apply what we have done to our systemic mental health issues that are systemic, actually.
And I think we'd be open to that.
All right.
We're always willing to learn, and always willing to try to, every day we're trying to do better.
All right, so going down on the stack, Kathy Otto is next.
I really find it ironic that you got so upset with him for assuming what
I'm not
you think.
upset.
And I understand why you did, because what I did when you did that to us is typed up a little note here so that I would remember what to say. Basically that I'm personally offended that you assume I don't know what a homeless shelter looks like. And I think it behooves you as well to refrain from making assumptions. I've been working in social service for a number of years. I'm a professional fundraiser and public relations person. I've worked with homeless people, I've worked with the destitute, I've worked with drug addicts, I've worked with domestic violence victims. I know what a homeless shelter looks like. I know what services look like for people. And you also, on another tack, you asked, you know, how you can tell people that they can't stay overnight, but you're allowing us to do that. And it's a very, very simple answer. People can't stay down there for parties overnight. People can't stay down there for any other reason other than the First Amendment, which trumps every other law in this city.